Hey everyone, I'm Isadora and today we're going to be talking about the subjunctive. So let's get started. So what is subjunctive? Well, first of all, it is a mood. So it's not a verbal tense like present, future, and past. It is just a mood. However, almost all verbs are in the present tense in the subjunctive, in the exception of the past tense of be. Like be, like to be is the only verb which is not in the present tense. It's going to be in the past tense, which is were. Well, the subjunctive is basically the same of the infinitive. You just have to cut the to off. And also, no s is added in the verb when you have like he, she, it as a person. So that's its similarity to infinitive. Because if you say in the subjunctive, you're gonna say like I work, you work, he work, she work, it work, we work, they work. So as you may have noticed, I did not add as at the end of the word work, which is the verb, in the he, she, it, because the subjunctive does not do that. The subjunctive uses the infinitive form of the verb without the to. So instead of to work, it's only work. Well, when do we use the subjunctive? So we are going to use the subjunctive when we have possibilities and we're not certain of what's going to happen. So we may be talking about something that may or may not happen, or sometimes we are talking about what we want, what we hope for, what we expect or imagine. So here in the first example, we have expressing a hypothetical situation, which is like talking about something that could or could not happen, or most likely did not happen because it's hypothetical. So in the example we have, I wouldn't do that if I were you. So normally you would use was because that is the past tense for the verb to be for the I pronoun. However, as we talked about before, we always use were for the verb to be in the subjunctive. So here's a hypothetical situation because, I am not you, like you are you, I am me. So that's why it's hypothetical and that's why we use the subjunctive, because we're talking about different people. If I were you, that's one thing, but I'm not. And the second situation is expressing wish, demand, or suggestion. So I demand he lower his word. So usually we would have lowers with the s, but as we have talked about before, we do not add s to the verb in the subjunctive mood. Remember, it's not a tense, it's a mood. Well, this structure is basically this one. We have the subject, which is usually a pronoun, and it's usually I. It's usually the pronoun I, but you can also use like with he, she, it, we, you, they, things like that. And we also have, following the subject, a verb. Then we have the word that, the object, which is what we are referring to, and the subjunctive. So the verb and the subjunctive, as we have talked about before. This first verb that comes before the word that is usually those verbs that are appearing in the screen right now. So advise, order, ask, petition, beg, recommend. So all of them are related to what you expect, what you hope, what you demand sometimes. I don't know. And the word that, I just wanted to highlight that it's always preceded by an expression, and the expression is the subject and the verb. So whenever you're using the subjunctive, you are almost gonna certainly have like two different verbs, and you have to connect the sentences of those verbs, like the clauses, with the word that. Common examples of the sentences that come before that, which are like the subject plus the verb here, is it is desirable, imperative, essential, necessary, important. So as I've talked about before, usually the subject's gonna be the pronoun I, but if I would say like second best, it would probably be the pronoun it. Well, just the last thing I wanted to point out, so it is really clear in your minds. We talked about it before, but the verb to be has only its past tense in the subjunctive. So you're not gonna say I am or you are in the subjunctive. You're gonna say I were. You are also not gonna say I was. That's wrong in the subjunctive. You're always gonna say I were, because we're talking about hypothetical situations. So With to be, you're gonna use like the past tense word for all the verbs in the subjunctive. So that was basically it. So now we just have like to put into practice what we have went over. So we have this exercise here. If you want, you can pause the video, try for yourself. Now let's answer it. So it's important that she to take her medicine twice a day. So as we have talked before, even though it's the third person of singular, we do not add the s at the end. So it's basically just repeating the verb. So it's remember, that she remembered to take. Second one, I suggest that Frank the directions carefully. As before, Frank would be the pronoun he. However, in the subjunctive, we do not add the s at the end of the verb. So we're gonna have Frank read the directions. Frank read the directions. So not s at the end, just repeat, like copy and paste the verb. Third example, this one's kind of different. Mr. Frankenstein demanded that the heater immediately. So what happens is it's not only in the subjunctive, but it's also in the passive voice. You know, the heater is not the subject, it is the object. The heater is not repairing itself, someone else is doing that for it. So that's why we have to do almost like a passive voice for the subjunctive. And as you may have seen in our previous class, whenever we have a passive voice, we want to add the verb to be. So here we're gonna add the verb to be and then just put the repair in its participle. So the heater be repaired immediately. In the fourth example, just the same, United States would be the pronoun it, but we do not add s in the subjunctive, so we just copy and paste the verb. So focus, just it. United States focus on improving. That's it. Last example, we have the verb enter. However, if you read the whole sentence, you're going to see it is negative. So what do we do when we have a negative subjunctive? We just add not before the verb. So we're going to have not enter. And here's like the answer shape. So as we have talked before, remember, read, focus, none of them adds the s of the final because they're in the subjunctive. In the third one, we have a passive voice, so we have to add the verb to be. And in the fifth one and last one, it's a negative one, so we just have to add not. Well, that was it for today. Those are like the references. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us through the WhatsApp groups or Google Classroom. The links are in the description. And also feel free to, we are here to take your doubts away. So I think that was it for today. Thank you so much for watching it. And yeah, that was it. Thank you. Bye.